Yeah.
I
100%.
hate that side of motherhood. That is the worst side of motherhood. I'm
agreed.
not in control of life and death.
Yeah.
Even right now in this moment, like we are not in control of life and death of our kids. That is like literally up to
It's
the Lord.
true.
Or like just protection, just like protection. Like, and I so badly crave the control of protecting my kids. And it is a constant surrender to be like, I'm ultimately not in control. I know that with Meadow, I have my own issues, but I would say that fear and anxiety aren't, like fear in particular isn't like a strong feeling that I have to have a lot. Like that feeling of fear, that's not very strong. Anger, yes, I relate to anger, but like fear is like something that like, I just don't feel like I really struggle with. But when I was pregnant with Meadow, I had to battle fear the whole way through. I had to battle intrusive thoughts. I had to battle.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember feeling really tired by the end of like my pregnancy with Meadow because I really craved relief from those feelings of almost like impending doom. And then I remember like when I delivered her and I brought her to my chest and she cried and you were there. I remember, I don't know if I said it out loud or if it was internal, but I was like, oh, thank God she's alive.
Yeah, that was internal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, thank God you're alive.
Wow.
Because
yeah, you did struggle with a lot of that fear. I remember that.
And as someone who's had nearly no birth trauma.
Right.
That's crazy that like, but I don't know if that was a spiritual thing or if it was a mix of spiritual and just seeing a lot like
people. Yeah.
We're not meant to be,
stuff.
we're not meant to like,
shouldn't be aware of so much stuff.
I know. We need to like protect ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm sorry I just shared a baby passing story with you.
Yeah, that's okay. It's fine. I'm fine. It's totally fine. No, it's good. I have peace. I feel like the Lord showed me what he wanted me to know. And so I choose to trust that and cling to that when the fear does want to come up.
And now you're not dependent on your circumstances, right?
Right.
Like even this conversation, the fact that I just like apologize for sharing a baby, like the grief of a baby dying, like you actually like receiving that, you're not dependent on this like you can actually go to the Lord and be like, hey, this came up.
Yep.
Let's work through this.
Yep. Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
That's actually like a
100%.
superpower we have as believers.
It is.
Is that like the Lord speaks to us and
it's a superpower to lean into in your friendships and in your marriage too.
Yes.
And in motherhood, just that your dependency. And this is speaking from a recovering codependent. No, literally though. Yeah. That you really rely, your heart relies on the Lord's voice and his word to be the ultimate comfort and voice.
And I would say for the person who's, I'm trying, I can't. I'm trying, I can't. Then I would say, go to your safe people. I would say, like, when I'm having blocks with the Lord, like you and Lo are like the two people I call. Like sometimes my husband, but honestly, like
the girls just, the men don't get it. They don't get it. Yeah.
And like I think it's really biblical. We see that in scripture a lot. Like we see people like holding up each other's arms, like Moses and Aaron in the battle. I just believe that like we were meant for community. And so when there are moments of, I just don't have the faith to believe this about God right now. We have created such a unique and beautiful community of women who have the safety to do that. And I'm talking about like warriors in the spirit.
Yeah.
And still have those moments where we're like, I need you to hold up my arms right now. I'm just not breathing.
There's like absolutely seasons in the last 3 years that I know for a fact that my friends prayed more for my situation than I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I needed them to.
Yes.
Because I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for community and for friends. And I think God uses both. It's like we are to be fully dependent on him. And yet he blesses us with friendship and community so that we can, like, and again, the idea is that we're in friendship and community that do point us back to the heart of the Father and do point us back to his truth. And that often is the avenue that then allows us to go back to our knees before him. And sometimes we need to process it out with our friends first, but that our heart always goes back to ultimately before the Lord. Yeah. And I think that's where you really experience even wholehearted living and relationship and friendship, not only with God, but with your people and yourself, you know, 100%. That's the full connection.
Yes.
For all three.
And I hope that one day, because I know there's some people, that's one of the questions I get a lot on social media is like, how do you make friends like this? How do you build?
It was like literally the Lord.
It is. I feel so.
But also choosing vulnerability.
Also like getting a part, like actually finding a church with like-minded believers. That's been huge for me. Putting myself out there, like you have to be like, it takes vulnerability to make friends. And I realized that even though there's still some areas I struggle in, that like I look at it as like, what is there to lose? I'm just gonna try, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I've not lost anything. But I wanted to segue a little bit into right now, what would you tell a first-time mom that's walking through disappointment in pregnancy? Like, what would your advice be to them? This is your second unplanned pregnancy, but your third baby in the last 3 years. And there's gonna be moms out there who can relate to that. So like, what would be some advice you'd give them that you haven't already shared?
I would say, I think what we've been discussing regarding surrender is huge, and really asking the Lord, really consulting the Lord, right, about his plans and his heart is huge. I would say if you're a first-time mom and you're like feeling very conflicted about your pregnancy, like you're feeling uncomfortable in your body, you're feeling a little out of control in your emotions, or you're just afraid of the future. Number one, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Number two, you're allowed to grieve, mourn, and be excited all at the same time.
There's room for everything.
There's room for all of it. And I want you to know what that is a reality that you are entering into a new season of learning what it does mean to literally die to yourself. And that is hard. And for some women, I think some women have really natural dispositions. Like they've been wanting to be moms their whole lives. This is what they feel is their number one call. And I think for those women, maybe it can seem easier for them. There's just true optimism and excitement because they just know this is what I've wanted. I'm getting the thing I wanted. And for other women who could be a little bit more connected to their body or self-oriented, like I will be the first to admit, I know my self-orientation. I know my self-centered orientation exists. I'm fully aware of it every single day of my life. And I've had to really bring that to the Lord, and I feel it when I'm in motherhood. I feel it the most, just like this death. Like I just experience personal death, self-sacrificing. And I think that it is hard.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're having a hard time with that. And to not feel shame, and to know that
it's not a direct reflection of who you are or your ability.
Absolutely. You're not wrong and you're not bad.
Yeah.
You are a human who have human emotions, who is very aware of the fact that you're going to have to lay some things down, that you're going to experience a level of self-death. And that is what it is. And so it's okay. It's okay. And because you know what? Once you get that baby in your arms and you start learning how to be a mom with this baby, there are going to be new things that are going to come up in you and out of you that you're like, oh, I kind of love that. That's really cool. Like, I didn't know that was in me.
Yes.
It's also self-discovery.
I always say that like every birth, there's a baby born and you're reborn.
Yeah. There's a rebirth in you. That's exactly better than self-discovery. It'd be a rebirth.
Yeah. There's
something that comes out in you that you're going to fall in love with.
Yeah.
And you're going to be really grateful for.
It's almost like I explained it to people before. View your heart as a hotel, and there's all these different floors and like rooms. Like when you enter into motherhood, you've only been living in the office of this hotel, and all of a sudden like the first 3 stories of your hotel like unlock, and then each baby you have, it's like another story. You just have all these like chambers of your heart that just like all of a sudden you have the keys for. You're like, I didn't know I had this in me,
and this capacity,
and
this strength and this endurance. It really is like what I can do now, like the hoops that I jump through.
Yes.
On a hourly basis, compared to who I was before I was a mom. I thought like things were hard then. I thought, oh, this job's really hard, or this is really exhausting or whatever. But what I endure now, it blows my mind. And I'm like, you know what? This is hard. This kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm so impressed. I'm so grateful. I'm like, I am better because of it.
Yeah. I even talked to friends. I remember talking to one of our close friends, Alicia, and she was saying, she's like, you know, I really struggled with people pleasing until I had kids. And then I just learned how to be more fierce about like my needs and my boundaries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's another cool thing that motherhood can bring
100%.
out. I'm still waiting for that. To get better.
Yeah, it's okay.
For me. I'm on a journey. But people pleasing, I'm not completely free from yet.
Yes, yeah.
Do you have any must-haves or favorite things, favorite resources, like items that you've just been loving this pregnancy?
Okay. Not really. No, just kidding. I am just trying to remember I'm pregnant half the time and engage with this pregnancy. But I would say that things that I do think are so vital in a pregnancy are definitely going to be finding an avenue for, how do I want to say this? Like almost like Christian, like soaking music or hypnobirth, whatever you feel is like what you feel comfortable with. But meditation, thank you. That's the M word. I was like, there's an M word. There's an M word somewhere. Meditation. I think finding something that you can lean into to really start practicing that if you're wanting to have a natural birth, I think.
Or even a C-section.
Yeah, true.
Some people like who have those.
Who prefer that. I just know like for me, what's been such a big thing going into like natural labor and just that process of enduring physical challenge and exhaustion, like getting my muscle memory equipped with meditation and getting into that like restful place really helps natural labor, right? Like it's 80% mental.
It is.
And I think that you don't hear about that as much, right? Because there's so much physical preparation and emphasis. But actually, it is 80% mental game.
Yeah.
Your mental game's got to be strong. And just preparing that, I would say, finding a space to really prepare,
that's
cultivate peace.
What about like nitty gritty? Like, has there been a meal or a drink or a supplement or a cream that you've loved this pregnancy? I know you've been on your raw milk game.
I was on my raw milk game. Yeah, I love that milk. Has there been anything nitty gritty that I've been? I really feel super chaotic, but I mean, I think magnesium is going to be like that thing that I'm always grateful I take.
Yeah,
magnesium. So I take this awesome bio optimizer actually, and it's called Magnesium Breakthrough.
We'll link that in the show notes.
It's got like 8 different magnesiums in it, and I actually just ordered some for my kids because I think they need help with sleep. I've been up every night with them.
I was like microdosing your kids.
Yeah,
like
literally. I'm like,
magnesium.
No, seriously. Definitely magnesium is going to be a thing. Even progesterone.
Do you use Noel's?
I do use Noel's. And I'm also about to order this other one. It's just like pure yam cream.
I've seen that.
I'm going to try this one,
What's
this
Noel's
new one too.
Instagram handle again?
Noel, I think it's like, at Noel something. I can't
Sorry,
remember.
Noel. We love you. We're obsessed with you.
Yeah. We'll tag you. We'll tag you. But I would say progesterone is definitely a key.
Are you taking HCl for your stomach acid?
I should be. Hence all of my burping. But I am not.
Are you on your beef liver game?
I am on my beef liver game. I've been taking like a lot of organs.
Good.
There's a lot of organs happening.
Perfect Supplements, code Flourish10. We are obsessed with Perfect Supplements. They're amazing.
Amen. Love their collagen.
Yes.
Love their
Maybe we'll have
organs.
them on a podcast one day.
That would be amazing.
That'd be fun.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
And then walking.
Yeah,
and
walking.
having walking dates with you.
Quality time. Uninterrupted quality
lattes.
time.
Gotta love it.
Lattes.
I'm an iced latte lover.
Yes. I would say that for me, I know I haven't really talked about, before I get into what I've really loved postpartum, like, do you have any questions for me postpartum? Anything you feel like I haven't shared with the listeners?
One thing I was thinking I would love for you to speak into regarding postpartum is breastfeeding. Like, I just feel like breastfeeding is such a big subject, and you have, to me, you're just like such a safe place to turn to for a slew of perspectives and information and approaches because you have been through it.
Yeah.
And you also supported me in this last postpartum in choosing, it was you and the Holy Spirit, honestly, giving me just like the permission and the clarity to like choose to exclusively pump and bottle feed Zion due to his oral dysfunction that I just knew we were not in a place to like in mental health. And it brought a lot of peace. And I think I would love for you to speak to that because I think this is a pain point for women. And honestly, it's like the hardest part to me about this whole process.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because but walking in to my birth with Flora, I actually was like a nutrition counselor for pregnant women, postpartum women, and babies from 0 to 5.
Right.
I also did lactation work. I don't think I was considered a lactation consultant. I was a lactation consultant assistant or something like that. So I helped women quote unquote with breastfeeding because before you breastfeed, it is so hard to even know what that means.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
So my perspective going into being a postpartum mom was that people who didn't breastfeed were lazy. They just didn't try hard enough. You just need to keep trying.
I can see that in the 22-year-old version, Meg.
Very myopic and if you try hard enough, this is where surrender comes in. I've learned how to surrender because it was not my experience with Flora. I gave birth to Flora, did not go how I planned, but it wasn't necessarily traumatic. It was just disappointing. And I'm sitting there and I have like such fierce memories of trying to breastfeed Flora because I have really strong memories. And I remember sitting there and having her at the breast and she just had this open mouth scream at my nipple. And I just kept telling myself, she was just born. She's a newborn. It's going to be fine. Let's do this. Let's do this. And my doula was there and she's like, well, let's like they did all these things. Let's like rub her down. Let's clip the cord. Let's get her dressed. Let's put a hat on. It kept being like, as the hours were going on, I finally looked at my midwife and I was just like, why isn't she taking my nipple? And the only thing they could ever tell me was, she's learning. She was just born. You just cuddle her. Just cuddle her. And I didn't know then what I know now, right? Like actually those first 5 hours after you have a baby are really important when it comes to like your supply, your hormones and all those things. But I just kept trying to get her on the breast and she literally wasn't taking my nipple. And not only that, this is something I want women to know. The lactation consultants that work in the hospital, they're not IBCLCs, which is International Board Lactation Consultants.
Yeah, which means they do very extensive.
Yes, they do a lot of
schooling and training. Yeah.
And so IBCLCs, write that one down if you're like, your screenshot this IBCLC. Those are the people you want to be going to. So I had these lactation consultants, I'm going to air quote that. Yeah. Come in and they were wildly unhelpful. And I felt like I was just being gaslit. They kept being like, she's learning. And I got to the point where I was like, what the heck is she learning? She's not latching. She's not latching. And one of them was like, yes, she is. She's spitting up. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, are you literally telling me that my baby is doing something that it's not doing? Like what she was doing was she was spitting up amniotic fluid.
Whoa.
So she kept spitting up amniotic fluid because of like how fast my babies are born. They typically have a lot of fluid.
Yeah.
But they kept telling me that she was obviously getting enough because she's spitting it up. And I kept saying,
my gosh,
but she's not latching.
Right. So how does that work?
It was more than just disappointing. I actually felt like I was going clinically insane. Yeah. So I leave the hospital. I never pumped. She never latched.
Oh my God.
I leave like day 2 or day 3, which is terrible for your supply.
Yeah.
But I know people can relate with this, right? I leave the hospital. I'm just thinking like, once they get into a calm environment, she'll start to breastfeed. She doesn't. And not only did we not go into a calm environment, but she's getting more and more hysterical because now it's like day like 3 or 4. This girl has not had anything to drink besides her own amniotic fluid.
Oh my God.
So I send Cam to the store. My best friend Lo was with me at the time. I send Lo to the store and I was like, just pick up any formula. I had done zero research on formula because I was going to breastfeed.
You're in fight or flight at this point too.
I don't have a pump set up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's another thing. No matter what you believe about breastfeeding, get a pump set up beforehand.
You need to have it.
Just have a pump in the bottle. So 100%. She comes back with like a bottle from Walgreens and whatever, God knows what formula, makes a bottle for us. And Flora eats for the first time and stops crying. Whoa. And I just sit there holding this baby.
Oh my gosh.
Feeling a deep sense of relief. And horror.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fear.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just looking at this baby and I'm like, what's the next step? I saw 8 different lactation consultants.
Wow.
Until I figured out how to get her to latch to my nipple. And she did not latch to my nipple for 8 weeks. Wow. So from that point to 8 weeks, think of how many, okay, I can just tell you, you don't have to imagine it. I tried to latch Flora every single eating session. So she probably ate 10 to 12 times a day for the first month. And then maybe like around 8 times a day from the second month. Do the math on that. Every day, 8 to 12 times a day, you're trying to get a baby to latch to your nipple that they are not latching to. That is the most severe sense of rejection that I have felt before.
Absolutely.
But I think what helped was that no one necessarily was telling me to give up. I did have one, actually, I went through multiple surgeries with Flora. So the first time they used a razor blade and they just cut her lip and her tongue. They gave me no open wound stretching advice.
Oh my gosh.
No advice. They just literally took a razor blade and just cut her and then handed her back to me. And then when I went back for my consult, he said, you should just give her a bottle. You should not worry about breastfeeding. It's just not going to work. But at that point, I was like, you just sliced open my 6-day-old baby. I'm going to fight for this.
And then you're going to tell me to just give her a bottle.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to fight for this.
Yeah.
But plus, all of you guys don't know, but I'm a military wife. So like my husband deployed 10 days postpartum. So I'm doing all this without Cam's support. But no one told me to give up. And I had this hope that like, I just wanted to give it everything I could. So at 4 weeks, after her second set of laser revisions on her mouth and her tongue and starting a pumping schedule, renting a hospital grade pump, pumping around the clock, I finally have a supply again. I'm able to at least give her my pumped breast milk in a bottle. I just had this like determination. I was using a nipple shield. And at 4 weeks, I got Flora to latch onto the nipple shield when she was 4 weeks old by taking a syringe of breast milk. I stripped naked. I pulled my little sister into the bedroom and I was like, you hold the baby, I'll hold my boob and I'll hold the milk. And she held the baby at my breast like this.
Oh my gosh.
And I was dripping breast milk into my nipple shield as Flora screamed at it. And then eventually she took that shield. And then from that point, she eventually took my nipple. And believe it or not, that story wasn't my worst breastfeeding experience. That was just my first. So I bet we could do like a whole other.
We probably could.
Do a whole thing just on breastfeeding. But I will say that like having at least the next time I went through hell in a handbasket with breastfeeding, I had an LBC, I had a IBCLC, I had gear, I had bottles, I knew what a weighted feed was.
Yes.
And then my third time around with Meadow, once again,
or Theo or Meadow.
Because
third time because you would say Lemon was like not an issue.
Clementine just nursed and gained. And that's another thing with breastfeeding. You can have like just such different experiences.
Totally.
But with Meadow, I feel like I was even more regulated going into all the surgeries and stuff like that because, well, it was my third time around, but I just had this like hope where I was like, if I did it with Theo and Flora,
you can do it with Meadow.
I can do it with Meadow because I triple fed Theo until he was 3 months.
Yeah.
And no one could tell me if he would ever be able to breastfeed normally. And at 3 months, he finally breastfed normally. So with Meadow, I was like, that's what my mom said to me. It's okay that it's hard right now. Yeah. Your supply will come. And I just, I feel like I finally was like, there was that surrender piece again where I was like, I'm just going to do what I have control of and I'm going to surrender everything else.
Yeah. And I watched you really see Meadow progress very quickly. And by 6 weeks, I remember you being like, wow, we're in such a different place.
Yes.
And sometimes it can just take 6 weeks, but being in postpartum, 6 weeks feels like an eternity.
It does.
It really does.
And there's so much self-doubt.
Yes.
Of like, am I doing the right thing?
Uncertainty. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
You have to really like, for me, I always tell moms, and this is something I told you when you were talking about pumping. So you have to go back to your value system. And you really have to have like a clear, that's the thing that's important to do when you're pregnant.
Yes.
Is to have a clear defined value system. Because I was just talking with a friend, Ashley, who doesn't even pump. She like just gives her kids bottles. And she found a good formula that she likes. It's good enough for her.
Yeah.
And she's like, my value system is I don't want to breastfeed.
Yeah.
I want to do whatever I want to do.
Totally.
She loves her kids, but she just simply does not want to breastfeed.
I feel her.
Yeah. And she just said, I don't want to pump. I don't want to breastfeed. I don't want to do anything.
What's the formula that she used?
I should get that. If I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she likes it. And so I feel like my value system, there's just something in me. My dad would call it a bulldozer. He's like, you just bulldoze like through things that you want.
Yeah.
In good and in bad ways.
Totally.
And when it came to breastfeeding, I'm a bulldozer. And I was like, I'm just going to figure this out if it kills me.
Yeah.
But that's just how I'm wired. And you're not wired like that.
Totally.
So when I was sitting in bed with you, and we had little stitches and your newborn little baby.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you would have never pump and get bottle feed. I'm like, because I'm a psycho like that.
Yeah, literally.
And you're a psycho in ways I'm not a psycho.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like we just have our own areas of genius. So like you have to figure out your values and not do something based off what someone else is telling you.
Yes.
But if you have that kind of personality where you're like, I'll do this until it kills me, be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And if you're someone I am fragile, my mental health is fragile when I'm postpartum. And if this is hard for me, I need to have option B. I need to have a plan B.
I think for you would say that, and you said this when we were having that moment together over Zion. I think what you would feel like if you didn't give it your all and you didn't give it your best shot and you didn't try it and see it to the end, that you would actually feel more unwell about that, and it would affect you more negatively than it would to actually to do it differently, to suffer through. And
the
for
suffering of walking away from something is higher for me than the suffering of just getting through it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was basically what you said to me in the bed. I remember we like busted out laughing because the way you said it was hysterical in that moment. Yeah, you were just because I like
failing hurts more.
Like I like can't fail or something like that, in a way where I just was like, we just busted out laughing, but had to be there. But I think that's such a good thing for listeners to reflect on within themselves. Because for me, I think I did a very similar journey with Zara with my first time. And I remember her after a year was like, we dealt with weight gain issues. We dealt with constipation,
painful nipples,
and we did the surgery.
Isolation.
We did the whole things. We tried all the things.
Yeah.
And I just remember like when she started pushing me away at 1 year old, right? And that breastfeeding journey that I wanted so bad, that I had the grit to see it through. And I just looked back and I was like, you know what? For me, that was not worth it.
It stole from you. You could look back on it, you could be like, I actually feel like I couldn't engage.
It felt like a loss, and it felt like it actually it impacted my connection with Zara. It actually made me want to be around her less because I actually felt very overwhelmed. And as a baby. And I think like for me, when I reflected on that and I saw what it was doing to me emotionally and how it's actually affecting my connection with Zara, and all I wanted was connection with Zara. Like that was like the thing I was most excited about having a daughter for my firstborn, was like, oh my gosh, I get to give her the thing that I never felt like I truly had.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I felt like the way that I chose to go about breastfeeding, because of, just my disposition emotionally, mentally, and physically at this time, it actually created the thing that I didn't want to create.
And that's why having awareness matters.
Yes.
And I feel like that's going to be something that we probably talk about a lot when it comes to motherhood, is like you need to have a lot of emotional awareness.
Totally.
And to know, and sometimes you learn that along the way.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that was your case.
Totally.
I feel like you just were like, you know what? I'm going to do things differently next time.
Yeah. And I think going into Ellie was very similar to Clementine, Eliana, my second, where it was easier. Yeah. She latched. And I think, but I got pregnant again when she was like 5.5.
And your supply tank.
Postpartum. And then my supply was gone. And honestly, I think that there would have probably started being issues anyways, because she does have tongue tie. She does have a high palate. She does have all the things. And
your letdown is so strong. Your letdown kind of carries your kids out for that first 3 to 4 months.
Exactly. And so I think we would have started seeing a decline anyways. I think we kind of were in hindsight, and ended up putting her on a formula. But with Zion, like I just remember thinking, I want to be connected to this little boy.
Yes.
And I know myself. I've seen what it does.
Yeah.
And I had to make that decision. And so for listeners, for first-time moms, get really good at figuring out what that looks like for you and honor it. And be okay with whatever journey you choose. If it's, I'm going the whole yards, I'm going to do this until there is no other option, then do it unapologetically. And if it's the other way around, where like for you, you just feel like I need to bottle feed, or I need to pump, or whatever it may be, like do it unapologetically. Don't mirror yourself to another mom. Discover what is going on inside of your body, what is going to allow you to be the best mom, cultivate connection with your kid, and give them what they need.
And it's not always going to be like that too. Like you might feel like you could bottle feed, but you could do something completely different.
Totally. I have no idea what
just because, right. You don't need to figure it out until the baby's born.
Totally. Exactly.
Right? So I always tell women that too, like whether that's with homeschooling, whether that's with home birth or whatever, it's like you could have a C-section one birth and choose the next one to home birth, or you could bottle feed one baby and the next one be like, I'm gonna try breastfeeding. You're not gonna be locked into anything.
Totally.
And you also don't have to explain yourself to people.
Absolutely.
You don't have to explain nothing to nobody. So just like figure out what your value system is.
Absolutely.
I know that I wanted to share some of my favorite things that really
what's been your postpartum goodies?
So I'll start with the breastfeeding since we're on that topic. Okay. There is this breastfeeding pill I discovered. It's called Butter. I think it's spelled without an E. I think it's Buttr. Butter breastfeeding pillow. It is like organic. It is like non-toxic. It's really trendy. Like I got this like really pretty.
It's like the moon
color.
one.
Yes.
Oh, cute. I want it.
And it's really like squishy. Like
fun.
I really love that. I know that I'm going to be mentioning something that's completely opposite of that. My breast friend.
I have the breast friend. Yeah, I love that thing.
Around me. Yes. They both have their own purposes. Yes. I still use my butter pill to this day. My breast friend is really great for me, like with breastfeeding issues. Newborn. And it creates a little table. I almost like carry newborns around that.
Literally, I love that thing.
To church, when we were in home church, I used to like, bring that with me. So I love that. Also for breastfeeding, I did Earthly's postpartum tincture.
Yeah, nice.
I did. There's like turmeric and black pepper and stuff in it. I feel
for like pain. Did you use it for pain or for
no?
For
I also used something for after birth pains.
Did you use the Birth Ease?
Yes, I used Birth Ease. Yes, we'll link that in too. But I use this. There's a postpartum blend that Earthly has.
Okay.
And it just helps with hormone regulation. So I use that. I also have a friend. One of my best friends lives. I can't say what country, but lives in the east part of the world, in a third world country.
Okay.
And she brought me a massive bag of dried red dates. And if you don't know about red dates, they are great for your hormone health. They're great for your creating like more blood. Like a lot of women like deal with like a certain amount of blood loss.
Yeah, true.
Helping like your hemoglobin levels, helping your mineral levels. I did a ton of mineral support this time for my postpartum health. So I did a lot of teas like Nora tea, which Nora stands for nettle, oat leaf, red raspberry, and alfalfa.
Nice.
So I made my own like Nora tea blends.
Amazing.
I'll also put that, like I think I might have a link to that for my blog, like a recipe for that. And also I did a lot of beef liver from Perfect Supplements, multi-organ from Perfect Supplements. I did oysters, like desiccated oysters from Earthly. And something that I didn't do that I wish that I would have was Shilajite.
Yes, I love Shilajit.
It's great. Like I've done it in periods of time, but like I got out of my Shilajit game, and recently there's this, we're gonna link them too. Their name is called Be Fertile, but they have a lot of like fertility based. I think that it was birthed from a pro-metabolic person, but they sell Shilajit that they just said they would send me, so I'm excited about listening about them.
We gotta share that for sure.
And then I did everyday dose, like that was helpful for postpartum, not having too much caffeine.
Nice.
So I did so many warm drinks. Like Ticino is like my favorite. Like it's like an herbal based coffee that has like no caffeine in it.
Yeah.
I did tons and tons of teas with my red dates, with my Nora tea, with my Ticino, everyday dose for my caffeine. And then I got those glass baby bottles from Dr. Bronner's because even though, and my pump, I've used a lot of different pumps that I liked. I liked the Medela Freestyle pump.
Okay.
I use my Spectra pump still to this day. And I use those glass Dr. Bronner's. Yep. That's what it's called, right? Dr. Bronner's?
Dr. Bronner?
Am I saying
Bonner? No, Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown.
Sorry,
You're confusing the soap thing.
Yes. Dr. Brown's the glass bottles. I loved those. And then the last thing that I was telling you about that I really loved for my postpartum period. Yeah. And it feels random, but it's not. Especially if you're currently postpartum, you'll really be able to relate with this. I prepped myself with organic pajamas from Pact, P-A-C-T. I love this brand. I don't get paid from them at all. I wish they would pay me. Pact, if you're listening to this, like put me on your payroll because I talk about you guys all the time. I love Pact. And I not only did I wear all their pajamas postpartum, and I have that because they have organic pajamas that like unbutton. Nice. So I had those already locked away for me. I also got Pact bed sheets. I got Pact pillowcases and an organic comforter because we spend so much, and Pact underwear. They sell underwear.
Oh, wow.
So I got everything organic because you live in those things. Yeah. You live in your bed postpartum. Totally. And my baby lives in my bed with me. Yes. And I remember thinking in my head, like when I had Theo, I remember thinking, I wish my mattress was organic. I actually have a naturopedic, which I also link, like naturopedic mattress. So this time around, I had organic mattress, an organic pajama set for me and for my baby. I think they wore Kate Quinn, like their organic bamboo set and stuff like that. And then my organic bedding from Pact. Everything was basically from Pact. Wow. Except for my mattress. And I just feel like even though I'm not a perfectionist, the fact that me and my baby were going to be living in PJs, underwear in my bed, like I just loved that. It gave me such like cozy vibe. I didn't feel like I wanted to leave my bed and get fresh air. I felt like I was like doing the,
and that was kind of perfect because it was you had a winter birth too, so it was just nice to like just
be able to stay in bed and know that like my baby's not breathing in like fiberglass or like pesticides or just like,
oh my gosh, it's in everything. It's just all things.
And this isn't to stress you out if you can't afford. I mean, organic, like I'm gonna be really like real. I'm gonna keep it 100 right now. Yeah, I got sent a lot of that stuff. Yeah, because I'm an influencer. Yeah. So I got sent the mattress. I did a brand deal with Naturopedic. I did a brand deal. I have to work for it still. I have to make content for them. Yes. But if like my first time around, I couldn't afford any of that stuff. Totally. It didn't prevent me from staying in bed with my baby. Totally. I just couldn't afford it. And a lot of our listeners aren't gonna be able to afford that. Totally. But that was something that I had that I was like, if I couldn't afford this, or if I wasn't gifted this, I would actually make an effort to buy it. Yeah. I thought it was worth it.
That's great. Something as you've been talking, I'm like, oh, there is one thing that I have been very consistent with this pregnancy. It's not been a lot. I'm going to be honest. 4th time, 2 babies under 2. I like, listen, this is just, I'm not thriving.
Yeah.
But one thing I have been doing that I've actually really loved is I've been using Buoy trace minerals. It's like these hydration drops. And I have felt such a difference in like my hydration. Yeah. Especially in the summertime right now.
You're so good at that.
Summer. Yeah, I love water in general. It's not hard. I'm a very hydrated girly. We need to help you drink water.
I'm a desert.
But when you learn more about even like water quality, it's not even that you're still not even necessarily even getting minerals through your water. You could still be dehydrated even though you're drinking water.
And you could actually be losing minerals.
Because you're flushing out your electrolytes. Yeah. So one of the things that I have added to this pregnancy that has been the easiest thing for me to be consistent on, because you just squirt it in your water like all day, and any juice, anything that you're drinking, has been these Buoy hydration drops, trace minerals. So, and they get them from it's from the ocean. It's bioavailable. So it's like super clean. There's no added stevia or like natural flavors. It's literally just trace minerals. So I would love to share that with people too, because I think hydration is a huge thing that you hear from your providers. So
I remembered another one too for me, and that is a baby carrier.
Yes.
Having a good baby
You really
carrier.
loved your baby carrier in this
I wear
postpartum.
Meadow. I mean, have you ever even seen me with a stroller ever?
No, I've never actually
Like,
seen it with a
I saw a
stroller.
friend out the other day and I mentioned my baby carrier and she goes, do you even own a stroller? I didn't know that you owned one.
Yeah.
Because I wear Meadow so much.
Yeah.
And for me, it's actually easier. I know for some people, like a stroller.
I feel like that's what I'm going to have to do this postpartum is honestly wear her all the time because I'm going to have the 2 other ones in a stroller.
Right.
So mama needs a baby carrier.
A wagon. So my baby carriers that I had this time, and we'll link, I've used a hiking backpack a lot recently. Meadow loves sleeping in her hiking backpack.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's from Yule, and I do all of my walks. It's also resistance training. So like people wear like vests to resistance train.
Right.
I just wear a Meadow on my backpack and I walk the beach, and like that's such a great workout for me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That was from Yule, and then I love my Wild Bird baby slang.
Yeah.
They have really clean fabrics. I think they're organic too. I'm not really sure, but I know that it's not synthetic material. It's like real cotton. My baby sling is amazing. I used a Solly baby wrap this time, those like stretchy ones.
Okay, you did.
For the newborn days.
Nice, yeah.
But I only really use those like the first month of the baby. And I wear that a lot around my house.
Is your Wild Bird a sling or is your Wild Bird a
I have carrier? A Wild Bird sling and I have the terracotta color of my carrier.
Okay, carrier.
That crisscrosses along the back. And I really like, if you don't like it, it's great because you can clasp it in on the side. Some people just don't have that like mobility.
That's what I need.
But I have the one that I probably have worn the most altogether out of everything has been my Acura Bloom.
Okay.
That's the sage green one.
Yes, I love that one.
It is leather and silk. I feel so bougie in it.
Bougie.
It just gives me everything I want. It's like
it's user friendly.
Actually, I would say that one's not as user friendly.
Okay, as the
Wild Bird one,
carrier.
I would say is more user friendly. Okay, it clips near like your rib cage.
Yeah.
The Sakura one, I was almost scared to wear it at first because first of all, it feels like it's like a belt that you fasten around this part.
Yep.
Instead of a clip.
Okay.
So that felt like, oh, that doesn't feel stable. And then it had this leather little loopy system in the back of where I had a loop in the back of my neck, and that I was worried about. But I've never had issues with it. It was just like it took me time to get used to.
It was like a mental barrier.
I was like, I was gonna drop my baby right out, and never did. And then someone actually in my comment section was like, "You're wearing that wrong."
No way.
And I was, even though I was embarrassed as heck.
Yeah, you're like, please
thank
tell
you.
me, how am I doing?
Thank you for telling me that. And I think I even DM'd. They have a great customer service. I think I DM'd the Sakura people. They have been so sweet on Instagram, and they want to do a giveaway with us. Maybe we can do a giveaway for our podcast.
That'd be fun.
We should do a giveaway for this podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Stay tuned for that. We'll have more details with that later. But if you're not following us now on Instagram, follow us. Follow He Made Her Whole, Flourishing Motherhood, and The Made to Flourish podcast. That is where you're going to be finding the giveaways from. But Sakura is amazing. And I remember once they reached out and told me how to wear it, and they sent me an instructional video, which was super helpful. I live in that thing.
That's amazing.
I've even gotten compliments from men on that carrier. Like Stu was like, "Where'd you get that from?" Yeah.
Can we talk about how anxiety provoking carriers are and just like baby wrapping and just like how that's like a whole thing for some moms? I mean, like it's not easy. It doesn't come easy for everyone, I think. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think if you're bigger busted like me,
that's hard. Yeah, you do have big old knockers.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it was getting in the way of things.
It's so much. I feel like it's made comfortable for the baby. I don't know. I would love to figure it out.
Because you can wear your baby on your back, which I know it not originally, like when you want them to be able to support their head. But I think that we can find a solution for you.
I look at your Wild Bird carrier and I'm like, I feel like we could be friends.
The ring sling is great because you can wear it on your side, and that'll help eliminate the boob situation.
I know, I hate that ring sling. I tried it with Ellie, and I think I need help.
Yeah,
I need you to sit with me and help me because there's something about it, and I've heard it from other moms too, where they're like, I just like.
Have you tried the stretchy one, like the Moby or Solly or anything?
I haven't. My issue with them usually is that it's too tight between my bust and for the baby.
Okay.
And so
you just need someone to help you tie yourself up.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll do it with you because those are really forgiving.
Yeah. And I need to figure it out.
You have little babies.
I do have little babies.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Big old babies.
I love that. One other thing I think we wanted to chat about on this was...
Oh, I didn't even mention my resources.
Yes.
Is that what? Is that where we're heading? Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. I want to give you guys some like practical resources to walk away with. And these are some things that have really helped me postpartum and pregnancies. The first one I always tell people is Mama Natural.
Yes.
Her name is Genevieve.
Yeah,
she's
actually a beautiful name.
Yeah, she's just like a beautiful person.
Mm-hmm.
She was like my introduction into learning all things motherhood.
Yeah.
So Genevieve is great. She sells prenatal. She sells probiotics. She sells a comb for labor. She sells a lot of things. But what I think her best product is that she sells is this book called like Week by Week Pregnancy. I can't remember the full name, but we'll link it in the show notes. And it's going to be, it basically brings you through each week. She has recipes in there. She has what your body's going through, what the baby's going through. She has stories. This is like what I gift people.
Nice.
This is what I gift people. Another book that I really loved for postpartum was First 40 Days.
Yeah.
Also had recipes in it. I need to give a little caveat to this recommendation is this book really encourages this Eastern approach to postpartum where you stay in bed for like 40, or you basically stay at home for 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who's a natural doer and a worker bee, I was like, this is the book for me. This is what I need to do. This is going to help me. It's going to solve all my problems. By day 28, I was literally like clinically depressed. I am not a little Asian woman who's meant to live in her apartment for 40 days. I needed to get out.
Yeah.
And so even though I love this book and I recommend it, I couldn't follow it through.
Honor your limits. Honor your body, honor your limits and your personality.
I literally had people over
honor your needs.
The next day after delivering Meadow, and it was good for me. It did not overwhelm me. I love the recipes in there. There's another book that I really love. It's by Weston A. Price, Nourishing Traditions. That one isn't necessarily postpartum, but I do give that when people are having babies. I give that to them as a gift because there's really great baby food options in there. And that can be a whole nother podcast. But those resources I really want to send you guys home with. Mama Natural has a website. I sometimes will Google mastitis Mama Natural. Yeah. Because I want to just know what she has to say about mastitis. Yeah, she's a great resource.
I agree. I go to her website a lot and I'll search. Do you? Yeah, I just went there the other day.
What if she came on our podcast one day?
That'd be wild.
Goals.
That would be amazing. Yeah. The only other thing I think we didn't get to cover, I think when you were speaking about the 40-day postpartum book, that we want to just encourage people to, again, be really self-aware of what your needs are and be willing to talk to your community. I think what's been a big strength for you in this postpartum that we didn't get to talk about has been that you kind of saw how you did postpartum the last couple of times. Yeah. And you went into this postpartum already having had the conversations with Cam and with your friends about, hey, what I need.
Yeah. One of the big ones was, and actually learned from our friend Elena. She goes, you know what I need when I'm postpartum? She goes, I don't need quality time. I need quantity time. I just need people around me.
Yeah, that's good.
And she said that and this like light bulb went off. And I went home and I told Cam, I just need you around. Yes. You don't have to even talk to me. Yep. You just need to be in the room with me. Yeah. And that bled into also like my mom being in town or having you guys come over. I remember like one of my worst days postpartum. You and Alicia and Corey were over. Yeah. I was a shell, and I'm sure you could tell that I looked terrible. But just having you guys there in my home with me was just like what I needed. But you know what I'm like learning in life is that awareness and stuff like this, like it comes from going through experiences and coming out the other side. True. I didn't know I needed that. Like every postpartum has actually been really different from what I needed. I went through a postpartum where my husband deployed. Right. And what I needed was to move back in with my parents for a few weeks. Right. And then with Clementine, my husband had just gotten back from deployment days previous. And I just like needed time to connect with my husband. Yep. And then with Theo, I thought that I needed 40 days to recover. That sucked. And I just needed to have community. And that's what I went into with Meadow. And I finally feel like, whoa, this is a great postpartum. Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, and it's good for me to hear that too, because I'm such a people connection oriented person too. And I'm like, oh, that's a good conversation for me to have it with Akeem, as far as it's hard when you're postpartum with like your third or fourth kid, because your husband really does take on the role of like carrying the rest of the kids and the load. They're the ones cleaning. Yeah. They're the ones feeding feeding and taking care of your kids and stuff. But even I think one of the things that was hard in this last postpartum with Zion was that Akeem was around, but like we weren't connected. And I'm like, oh, I need connection. So I think that'll be a good thing for me to talk to him about.
And on practical things too, like a list. Like when you ask me this, when you do this, I feel connected. Yeah. Because for me, I feel connected when Cam's physical with me. Right. So when he touches me, that actually means more than him being like, hey, do you need anything?
Right. I'm like, speak to me, talk to me, converse with
all
me.
The things. All love languages. Buy me gifts.
My mom, this is a little side note. She told me the other day, she's about to watch my 3 kids for 5 days while we go on our honeymoon. Our baby
moon. We haven't even talked about.
Oh my gosh, we're going on our first ever baby moon. Yeah. Baby number 4. This is a 7-year dream. I'm going to like the Gulf Coast of Florida. And I'm so excited. So my mom is going to come and she's going to watch the kids for 5 days, which is a very big task, by the way. And I feel low-key nervous for her. But she said to me yesterday, she said, I've been reading the love languages for children. And I said, why? She said, because I'm about to watch all of your kids. And I was like, Mom, that's adorable, first off. Second off, thank you. That's so kind of you. That was so intentional. And then she said, I'm pretty sure you're all of the love languages.
I am too. literally am
And I
too.
said, yes, you're exactly right. And I told Akeem upon dating,
Yes.
by the way, I'm all of them.
I'm all of them.
I'm needy. Just be like, you've been warned.
Yes, yes, yes.
They hop around, whichever ones I need.
The good news is you're not going to displease me.
Yes.
The bad news is that I need to unlove.
That I'm needy.
As sanguines, we just need to be loved.
Totally,
okay?
100%. But I laugh that my mom put that together
also
in her mind.
It's funny that like both of our moms weren't very outwardly pursuing love towards us.
Totally.
But as grandmas.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for my mom. Bless the grandmas.
Yeah.
So
well, great. I feel like we covered all the topics. I really would love to hear from you guys though. If you guys have anything that you want to know about pregnancy, postpartum, breastfeeding, C-section recovery, disappointment in birth, all of this stuff, birth trauma, we would love to hear from you guys in our comment section for the Made to Flourish podcast and Flourishing Motherhood. Please let us know what you guys want to hear more of and what we want to talk, because this could be something we could make a series about.
Absolutely.
So
there's a lot more we could
there's so
dive
much
into,
we could dive into.
Sure.
So thank you guys so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you for sharing your heart with us and your experiences. And we will see you next time on the Made to Flourish podcast.